BXB. It's in the game!
It's hard to believe it's been 10 years since the original Dead Rising came out on the 360. It was an exclusive title to that platform at the time, but now, as Capcom enjoys doing, we have the Dead Rising triple pack on the current generation of hardware on both the Xbox and the PlayStation, and even some newfangled editions on PC. Now, the triple pack comes with Dead Rising 1, Dead Rising 2, and Dead Rising 2 Off the Record, which is basically a remake of Dead Rising 2 starring Frank West. Dead Rising 2, of course, originally starred the kind of handyman protagonist that was Chuck Green. Now, I can see why they put Frank West back into Dead Rising in Off the Record, because let's be honest, the schlubby, put upon photojournalist he's covered wars, is by far the most interesting protagonist the series has seen to date. I can't remember the name of the protagonist from Dead Rising 3, though I did enjoy it quite a bit at the launch of the Xbox One. Actually, I've always really enjoyed the Dead Rising games. The combination of sort of the wacky sort of Japanese sensibilities that brings the humour to the zombie genre was really quite groundbreaking in 2006, and it still works to this day. The idea of using sort of a photojournalist taking pictures that can be everything from gory to violent to explosive to scandalous to almost borderline pornographic, and getting extra sort of experience rewards for it is something that feels uniquely Japanese in its cultural sort of take on the genre. And you know what? It worked in 2006 brilliantly, because back then we didn't have a Walking Dead TV show. We didn't have the glut of zombie fiction we have today. And I've always been partial to a bit of zombie fiction. I've always enjoyed the post-apocalyptic setting that it brings. And, setting Dead Rising in a mall, in an homage to the fantastic Dawn of the Dead by George Romero is, well, you couldn't get much more perfect, really, could you? I mean, who hasn't wanted to play that experience? But, Dead Rising doesn't just rest on its laurels of a well-constructed piece of zombie fiction. As is the case in much zombie fiction, the true enemy is humanity. Because, let's be honest, we are the Walking Dead. But, what I mean by that is Dead Rising introduces an enemy type like the Psychos, powered-up humans that often pose more of a threat than the zombies in various wacky, crazy, cartoonish ways. And that's one of the great strengths of Dead Rising. It's cartoonish violence. There's gore aplenty, there's blood, there's people being feasted upon. But, it's presented in a really over-the-top way. And if something that's even lent into even more heavily in Dead Rising 2, with its setting being this Las Vegas-style parody of Fortune City. Dead Rising 2 obviously brought in the mechanics of crafting weapons, which really does broaden things up and increases the hilarity possibilities in the Dead Rising series even more. You could always dress up and make Frank look silly, but being able to dress up and make Frank look silly off the record, but also give him a crazy sort of mad flame-throwing bunny launcher or something similar to that, makes it even more fun to murder zombies by the thousands. I also really enjoyed you can't forget Dead Rising was that game with that save mechanic. And that's here in this collection, this triple pack on Xbox or PS4, just as faithfully as it was in the original. That save mechanic which made you only be able to save in a toilet. Which meant that, you'd go off doing a big killing spree and, you've got to a point further on in the game, or you've got to a point at the end of a mission, you've not got a lot of health, and you die, and you wipe, and you lose a ton of progress because you weren't able to save recently. But it adds a great sort of, risk and reward feel to the game. And in addition to that, you have the punishing time limit situation, where if you don't get things done in time, if you don't do missions, if you don't, save characters, that's it, they're dead, that's it, game over. And what that meant with the original Dead Rising, and 2 as well, is that you'd do multiple playthroughs. It was designed so that you would maybe play through the game with an idea of leveling up, ignoring the story completely, but focusing on PP or experience points. And then you'd be able to reload the game with all of that experience, and with that buffed up health bar, with the extra abilities, that you'd get from doing that. And it would carry over. So there was this built-in replayability mechanic. It's something you don't really see a lot of in today's games, that expect you to be one and done with them and be over with them. This is something that kind of I missed from Dead Rising. The time mechanic was Dead Rising 3, I should say, the time mechanic was sort of taken out a bit. The saving anywhere system was brought in. It felt more approachable, and it's still a lot of fun killing loads of zombies and psychos in Dead Rising 3. And it looks like it will be in Dead Rising 4, which is due out later this year. And I'm definitely excited to play it. But there was something about these original games which I hold really dearly and I really enjoy. This sort of combination of wacky violence with a punishing sort of save mechanic made you really think about what you were doing and how you'd approach things. And that's something you just don't see that much. So I think this Dead Rising triple pack, especially Dead Rising 2 off the record, which I'll admit I pretty much missed entirely the first time through. So I've been enjoying playing it greatly. Frank West in Fortune City, schlubbier and more washed up than ever, is really, really good fun actually. But this triple pack, you know what you're getting. If you enjoy these experiences the first time through, they're an up-resed, cleaned up version on Xbox One, but they are the same games they were back on the 360, back in 2006 and 2010. The mechanics haven't really been changed in any way, and to me, that's a benefit. That's a plus. So I give the Dead Rising triple pack a big recommendation. As we move towards Dead Rising 4 coming out on the current generation of consoles, I give them a solid, a damn good 4 out of 5 stars.
BXB. It's in the game.